Squad, welcome back to my channel, KrissyBVlogs. Today I'm coming at you with another video kind of around weight loss, or at least my weight gain / loss journey over my lifetime or over my lifespan. This video is going to be me talking a little bit polycystic ovarian syndrome, or PCOS. PCOS is kind of like a metabolic disorder, if you will. And so before I get into this, I guess I am not a medical doctor, and although I work in mental health and I have worked alongside a lot of medical professionals, my videos are simply my own experience, things that I have been told by doctors, things that I have learned. So just a disclaimer there. Another thing too is PCOS can be different for every single person who has it. Their experience and their symptoms can be different. I do know there are more common symptoms among those who have PCOS and less common symptoms, but I'll get into that a little bit later. So the reason why I'm talking about PCOS is because it's something I have struggled with essentially my whole life. I remember, I've always been overweight, like since I was a baby, basically. But I remember being a young kid, and I probably became extremely aware of my weight, like through my own eyes, when I was probably around 8 or 9. Before that, I had been called fat and told that I was fat and those kinds of things, but I just didn't really get it. Like, my brain wasn't conceptualizing like what that actually meant, and I was just like, okay, whatever, like, you're calling me names or saying that I'm fat, cool. But when I was like 8 or 9, I really started realizing like what it meant to be fat, and I didn't really understand why my body was different. And so I didn't eat like the healthiest diet. I ate pretty unhealthy foods, but I wasn't eating like super excessively. So I was very active. For example, I played baseball, I played soccer, and then like during the day, I didn't have electronics when I was very young growing up, so I'd have to find things to do. So I would literally ride my bike up and down hills all freaking day long. I would jump on my trampoline for hours. Like, I would go and walk around town for hours. Like, I was doing all of that plus playing sports, and I usually didn't eat breakfast. Sometimes I would eat lunch, and then I would usually have a pretty big, relatively unhealthy dinner. And that could range from like homemade burritos if my mom decided to cook, or if whoever I was living with decided to cook, to like microwave chicken strips. And I would eat a relatively big portion, but it really wasn't making sense that I was as overweight as I was, because I just didn't eat very differently from the people around me, and I was very, very active. So my mom ended up taking me to the doctor when I was 11. And I'm pretty sure I had PCOS even before I was 11. And I started my period when I was 9. But she ended up taking me to the doctor when I was 11 because she had noticed some abnormal hair growth. I was getting hair growth on my chin. And at the time, it wasn't like a thick, coarse hair, kind of like more you would see on a male, but it was like long, thin hairs, and there was quite a bit of them. And so I remember her noticing one day, and she just told me there was hair on my face and that we should take it off. And I was like, okay. And so she nared it, which I think was one of the worst things she could have done. And I know, like, science says this isn't true, but as far as my experience goes, what I'm about to say has been true for me. If I wax, like when my hair growth was really insane, I don't have an issue with it really anymore, but when I was younger, if I would wax my hair, it would come back in a little bit thinner, and just not so coarse and not so dark, and it wouldn't come in as quick. If I would nair or shave, it came in quicker, thicker, and darker. And I know science says that that's not a thing. For me, in my personal experience, that was a thing for years. So her telling me or having me nair it off when I first got it, it took all those baby fine long hairs and made them thicker, coarser hairs. So I started having a lot of issues with hair growth, like all the way from here, all the way under my chin, like this whole area. I just had issues with hair growth, and it was really embarrassing for me. It was a really hard time. So I started waxing pretty regularly my face. And I figured out how to do it myself because, yeah, right, we were so broke. We weren't going to be getting into a wax salon. So we bought a tin of wax with some, I don't know what the applicators are called, but they basically look like popsicle sticks, and some strips. Actually, at the time, we bought hard wax because we couldn't afford wax and strips, so we got hard wax. And I would heat it up in a pot, and I would wax my face like once a week. But at that point, she decided to take me to the doctor. I went to the doctor, and at the time, PCOS was still kind of new-ish, at least in my area. Doctors hadn't really heard a lot about it. And so I went to my doctor. My doctor really didn't know what was going on. I went to another doctor. They didn't really know. And then I found this one doctor, and she knew what was happening because it was either her daughter or her friend's daughter had PCOS, and it was the same thing that I had. So she ended up running some tests, doing an ultrasound, and finding out that I had PCOS. So PCOS, like I said, it's kind of like a metabolic disorder. Most people that suffer from PCOS are overweight. Most people that suffer from PCOS have a resistance to carbohydrates and sugars. A lot of them even become diabetic. A lot of people with PCOS have excess hair growth that they shouldn't have. There's a hormone imbalance, so a lot of times they have extra androgens, which is like male hormone, that they shouldn't have. And some people have skin issues, so they get really bad acne, or they can get dark patches all over their body. There's just a lot of different things that go along with PCOS. In my personal experience, I had issues with weight because of PCOS. I'm not going to say it was solely PCOS because I don't always make the best food choices. I'm not always the most active. But even when I was younger, I obviously wasn't this heavy because I was more active and I was eating less. Excuse me. But I was still always overweight. So it definitely plays a role in my weight. And that's the other thing I wanted to touch on, is that PCOS plays a role in my weight loss. So the role that it plays in my weight loss now is when I'm not doing a low carb, more restrictive diet, I struggle to lose weight very quickly. So when I'm just eating kind of normally, but like less portion, less calories, I'm still only losing, on average about 1 pound a week. So that's the role that PCOS is playing in my weight loss now. Because I'm still consuming some carbs, some sugars, my weight loss is relatively slow, despite me making a pretty big change in the way that I am eating and the physical activity that I'm getting. So my lifetime experience for having PCOS has been, like I said before, always being overweight and being prone to weight gain, the excess hair. I got excess hair in quite a few places. I had it on my face, that whole area, like a man's beard. I remember waxing once a week, and it would just be like, there'd be so much hair when I would pull it. Like, it was so thick. It was mortifying. Like, it was a really hard time for me, especially once I started getting a little bit older. And like my first year of high school, I almost had like a nervous breakdown. A lot of other things involved, but that was one of them that was just crushing my mental health. And then the other issue that I've always had with PCOS, and I think that kind of goes with the weight gain, is I am not diabetic, and I'm not pre-diabetic or anything like that, but my body just does not process carbs and sugars very well at all. So honestly, I've had some rough symptoms from PCOS, but I've been pretty fortunate. I've seen people with PCOS that struggle with weight, diabetes, cystic acne, like just so many different things, and my heart goes out to them. Another really huge complication of PCOS is fertility. So yeah, a lot of women who have PCOS struggle with infertility and being able to have babies. Um, like kind of like is in the name, PCOS is polycystic ovarian syndrome. So this hasn't been a huge complication for me, but some women get really, really big cysts in their ovaries, and it can cause a lot of complications for fertility and just pain and everything. One issue that I've had with this is I've had some small cysts, not too bad, but one of the big things that I've had with it is really, really painful periods. So one way that, well, I guess the primary way to treat PCOS is through medication. Diet and lifestyle changes are really the best option when you have PCOS, but when you go and see a doctor, what they're probably going to do is just prescribe you medication. So when I was 11, I was prescribed to be on a birth control. I think I was on Yasmin for a really long time. Metformin, which is a diabetic medication, but I didn't have diabetes. It was just used to kind of help my body process carbs and sugars a little bit better. And then a medication called spironolactone, which is to help balance out my hormones. And so when I was prescribed those medications, it was to help me with weight loss, to help me with getting rid of the excess hair growth, to slow down any growth of cysts in my ovaries, and then also to help with my really irregular and painful periods. Now, my doctor has prescribed those meds and wants me to take them, but I just won't. For another video, another story time video, I guess I could kind of tell you my experience with medical and health issues and stuff after being pregnant and having my first kid, but it has really steered me away from medications. And then more recently, my doctor prescribed me a med that I tried, and it just wasn't a good experience. And I'm naturally fearful of taking meds because I have family history of addiction. And I'm not going to get addicted to ibuprofen, but it's just a weird way that my brain works. And so I haven't been taking my meds for a very long time. For me, I took those meds for several years. I ended up getting a few laser hair treatments and a few electrolysis treatments, and that has cleared up most of my excess hair issues. I obviously still have an issue with weight. I still have an issue with struggling to process sugars and carbs, but it hasn't progressed into any type of prediabetes or diabetes or anything like that. So I guess as far as my PCOS goes, I just wanted to kind of touch base with you guys and let you know that part of the reason why my weight loss is slower is because when I consume carbs and sugars, like I'm just going to lose weight slower because of my PCOS and the way that that interacts in my body. And then just to kind of let you guys in on my struggle as far as weight loss goes and those things. And I still do have a little bit of excess hair, like on my lip. I have to wax that. And I get some hairs on my chin. Not anything crazy anymore, which I'm so thankful for because, like I said previously, that was just very horrendous for me. But I still do get a little bit, and not anything crazy, like I can just pluck them out. But I thought I would share my story because I know a lot of other people out there struggle with this, and they don't know if they're going to be able to get pregnant, and they don't know where to turn or what to do. And honestly, the best thing that I can say for PCOS is manage it through lifestyle And if you're having symptoms that are really unbearable, like terrible periods or cysts or excess hair growth, some of the stuff that I was dealing with, please just get in contact with your doctor and take the meds that you need and seek out other forms of treatment. I know for some people, like myself, the laser and the electrolysis will really work with managing like hair and just things like that. So anyways, if you guys have any other questions about PCOS specifically or my experience with PCOS, or you need resources, just go ahead and let me know in the comments down below, and I will always get back to you guys and kind of give you more information as you need. And I hope to talk to you guys again. Thank you for coming back for another video, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.